What's up, everybody? It's your favorite show, Get a Bucket. I'm your host, Train, as usual. I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful day. Today, we're talking about the 2026 NBA awards because we have the finalists, and they will be dropping this week. But to be clear, we're going to talk about each award, my own predictions, and I'll list the finalists that the NBA has given. So, again, we're talking about the NBA's MVP, DPOYs, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved, Sixth Man of the Year. I'll give my takes on the Clutch Player of the Year finalists, and then the Coach of the Year. Executive of the Year, maybe I'll talk about another day. But that's what we're talking about right now. So you know what? Let's start it off with Coach of the Year. I think Coach of the Year should be smooth, and then we'll move on up to the MVP. So, Coach of the Years. I had a four-team race, if I'm being honest with you. You know what I'm saying? It was looking pretty decent. But they got three for the finalists. We got J.B. Bickerstaff, Mitch Johnson, and Joe Mazzulla. Now, J.B. Bickerstaff's off Detroit, Mitch Johnson from the Spurs, and Joe Mazzulla from the Celtics. That's about what I had to call a spade. And I might have to go Mitch Johnson, the Spurs head coach. Don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. J.B. Bickerstaff has coached his tail off, okay? Pistons number, 3 seed in the NBA? No one would have expected the Pistons to be here. Nobody. I don't even know if Pistons fans would have thought it. Mitch Johnson, though, I don't know if we would have thought the Spurs were number 2 in the league. Like, the Celtics, they were number 4. And that was because, we had question marks because they traded Drew Holiday. They lost Kristaps Porzingis. JT went out with an injury for the whole season damn near. We weren't expecting top 4 in nothing. I don't think the East even. Some people were talking about it be a gap year. Try to get one of these diaper dandies from the draft. But the Spurs at number 2 in the NBA, and they beat the OKC Thunder, the number 1 team in the NBA. What was it, 3 out of 4 times? 4 out of 5 times? Something like that? Yeah, I got to go with Mitch Johnson. Mitch Johnson for the Spurs, Coach of the Year. Argue with your mama. I can hear the Thunder, but we expected them to be number 1. Now, being number 1 without your second option, I can understand that. So they were my 4th team, right? Like the 4th option. But I got to go Mitch Johnson, number 1. Now, we're going to scroll on up here. What? All right, so the NBA's website, they got Clutch Player of the Year. It's between Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander, and Jamal Murray. I might lean Jamal Murray on this one. Listen, SGA, the team, stout. So while he does do a lot, he doesn't have to do as much as the other two. Anthony Edwards did a lot. Got your team pretty daggone high. But I look at Jamal Murray because Jamal, while, yes, you play with Nickeil Jokic, he also carried that Nuggets team for about a month and some change where he was snapping to the point that he became an all-star for the first time. So if we're talking about Clutch Player of the Year, I may have to give Jamal Murray his flowers. But I can't be mad if Anthony Edwards gets it too because, yes, Julius Randle's been the top player, right? Rudy Gobert's still a solid defensive anchor. Jaden McDaniel's been hooping. He's still the best player on the team without question. He leads the team so much. But Jamal Murray was pretty clutch for the Nuggets. So I may lean Jamal Murray for this one. 6th Man of the Year. All right, so this one's kind of tough for me. I'm basing it off the finalist award. We got Tim Hardaway Jr., Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Keldon Johnson. I was hoping I should just call Keldon Johnson Jr., just call it a day. We got 2 of them already. But Timmy's on the Nuggets, Jaime is on the Heat, Keldon's on the Spurs. This one's interesting. Because I had to look at Timmy again, I had to look at Jaime, and I had to look at Keldon. 6th Man of the Year is the hardest one for me to choose, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly, we could have even gone Reed Shepherd off the Rockets. We could have gone Naz Reid off the Wolves. Like, there were a couple of players that actually played well. Hell, if A.J. Mitchell had played more games, he might have been in the thick of these 6th Man of the Year discussions. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it's a jump ball on this one. Keldon Johnson had the higher win shares, right? Reed Shepherd, ironically, had the higher percentage in terms of factoring into the games. Tim Hardaway, higher win share than Jaime Jaquez Jr. But Jaime, well, he mattered more to his team if you want to base it off the win shares, the wins that the team had. Jaime had a 9.7%. Tim Hardaway had 8.2. Keldon had 10.6. If you're going off stats, it's a jump ball. Impact, I might lean Jaime. But again, there's a case for all of them. So this one's actually a jump ball for me, ladies and gentlemen. I want to lean Jaime off numbers. Reed Shepherd looked good. Reed's not a finalist, though. So again, I'm a little bit confused for Sixth Man of the Year. I'm curious what your thoughts are. To be clear, all three of these players could get a bucket. All three of them. So that's why it's even tougher, too. They're all averaging like 15 plus, 14, 15 plus. It was kind of crazy. Let's move on up, though, to the most improved player. Now, the finalists are Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Denny Avdia, and Jalen Duren. Now, Nickeil for the Hawks, Denny for the Portland Trailblazers, and Jalen for the Detroit Pistons. Ladies and gentlemen, this one was a little bit easier for me, right? Because I also had two other players to consider, Jalen Johnson on the Hawks and Cade Cunningham as well for the Detroit Pistons. And it's funny because I got to go Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like, when you look at what he did this season in comparison to last season, it was higher. He upped his points per game more than anybody. Like, unless my math ain't mathing correctly, Jalen got a 4-point advantage. Cade lost 2 points. Jalen Duren gained 8 points. Denny Avdia gained 7. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, ladies and gentlemen, he did 12. Gave a 12-year bid. You know what I'm saying? Like, Buddy was out there hooping. And it makes you wonder why the Wolves actually lost him. Because if they kept him, imagine if they kept Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That could be an easy, nice little pairing. So you could have him, Ant-Man, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. Bro, that would have been a smooth little squad. Even with Denny Avdia, this was an all-star season. He's viewing him, we're now viewing him as maybe a second option on a title team. Maybe. And he's been hooping. Jalen Duren, can he be on Team USA? He's getting Team USA considerations just on how he's played. Cade Cunningham, he's already a Team USA lock. Jalen Johnson, all-star and all-NBA consideration and a franchise player. That's what happened this very season for everybody. Hell, even Cade's an MVP candidate. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker, ladies and gentlemen, if we're talking about most improved, based on what we did from last season to this season, I give it to Nickeil. But I'm curious what your thoughts are, ladies and gentlemen. But again, all three of these guys, Nickeil, Denny, Jalen, even Cade and Jalen, they can all get a bucket, all top quality players. But I just lean Nickeil for me. That's just me personally. But if y'all got a different answer, I'd love to hear it. Now let's move on up to the Depoys. Now, the Depoy finalists, we got Chet Holmgren off OKC Thunder, Asar Thompson off the Detroit Pistons, and Victor Wembanyama for the San Antonio Spurs. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this one's easy. I got to go Victor Wembanyama. Don't get me wrong, Asar Thompson has been dogging folks on the defensive end. Chet Holmgren, he's been like number 2 the last 2 years now. Wemby has been leading the league in blocks. He wins defensive win shares and block percentage. Like, when he's on the floor, there's a clear, obvious case. Like, he doesn't have to score much to make an impact defensively. Like, he can have 8 to 10 points and still affect the game. I don't know if Chet has that same level of gravity. I don't know if Asar Thompson has that same level of gravity. So, ladies and gentlemen, easy peasy lemon squeezy. This goes to Victor Wembanyama. Honestly, he just needed to have the games played threshold, which I think he's at 64. So we make an exception for Buddy. But because remember, the threshold was 65. So he's right there. So as long as he made the threshold, he was good. And keep it a buck with you, same thing could have been said for last season. So finally, he gets a Depoy. We might be seeing him be Depoy for like multiple seasons in a row. And one of them seasons, he might get MVP. I'm just saying. But let's have a little patience. Now, let's move on up because, again, I could talk about all the players. Like, I can mention Scotty Barnes, Derek White, Rudy Gobert, but the Depoy one is probably the easiest one to give. Now, the Rookie of the Year, all right, this one was an interesting discussion. The finalists, we got VJ Edgecombe for the 76ers, Cooper Flagg for the Dallas Mavericks, and Con Knuppel from the Charlotte Hornets. I love this season personally from the Rookie of the Year because we got 2 Duke boys out there. That's right. They come from good stock, ladies and gentlemen, but only one can win. And I got to go Cooper Flagg. I've talked about this before, so I don't have to harp about it too much. But Coop, He doesn't lose in any of these statistical categories except when we get to the splits. Talking about points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. And then you got 3-point percentage, field goal percentage, and free throws. Knuppel only does better than Cooper Flagg in the splits. And keep in mind, for someone who's a 3-point shooter, 43% is pretty daggone good as a rookie. Breaking rookie records, I respect it. But the field goal percentage, 48-47, favoring Knuppel. And then the free throw percentage, 89-82, again, favoring Knuppel. That's not a large enough difference for me to say, oh yeah, Con's gotta win it. I understand the Hornets almost made the playoffs, but Coop was easily the better player, more of a two-way player with, at minimum, similar offensive output. But again, that's at minimum. Like, Charlotte's better than the Mavs. You have more responsibility and more focus on you if you're Cooper Flagg. So again, ladies and gentlemen, Rookie of the Year. Shout out VJ Edgecombe for having a phenomenal season too. But this has been a two-man race for quite some time. Dylan Harper also had a wonderful season. Again, this has been a two-man race for quite some time. Shout out to Cooper Flagg for winning Rookie of the Year. Now, MVP. Ladies and gentlemen, this one was interesting, right? For starters, the finalists, we got SGA from OKC, Nickeil Jokic from the Denver Nuggets, and of course, Victor Wembanyama from the Spurs. I have kind of a gripe with this, but I'm curious, right? So I remember from 1956 to 1980, the NBA players used to actually vote on who the NBA's MVP was. Then in 81 till now, we switched that to more so media voting, right? Well, as of, I guess, media, I got to say, SGA was, in fact, my choice for MVP. He is the only player in the top 10 in offensive win shares and defensive win shares. Now, he's number 2 in scoring, number 14 in assists, number 3 in free throw attempts, number 1 in free throw makes. He's played more games than everyone. And keep in mind, my list included Cade Cunningham, Jaylen Brown, and Luka Doncic. Luka was last. My order was SGA, right? Cade Cunningham, Victor Wembanyama, Jaylen Brown, Nickeil Jokic, then Luka Doncic. And SGA has played more games than everyone but Jaylen Brown. Again, the best ability is availability, ladies and gentlemen. And his team was number 1, not just in the West, but in the NBA back-to-back seasons. And they did so without J-Dub, Jalen Williams, their second best player. Now, Cade Cunningham, close, very close. It was hard for me to not put him number 1 for the MVP. And I think next season, if he does it again, the Detroit Pistons number 1 again, we got to have a discussion about Cade over SGA. Victor Wembanyama. If the Spurs were over OKC, I could have given him that nod. But remember, I said they were number 1 without their second best player. Yes, OKC's pretty deep, pretty talented. So are the Spurs. And while, yes, they are new and are exceeding expectations, SGA did have something to work with too. So again, when I say something to work with, I mean they weren't a complete team. They had injuries to deal with. Now, Jaylen Brown's team had a complete revamp, and I was pushing for JB being MVP for quite some time. It was between him and Cade for a minute, because I also thought SGA wouldn't have hit the games played threshold. Remember, Jaylen Brown was not playing with Jason Tatum. And if the Celtics were a number 1 seed in the East, before JT gets there, I might bring Jaylen Brown up a little bit higher. Or if Nickeil Jokic was healthier and if they outpaced the Thunder, okay, I could give Nickeil Jokic some flowers too. Because, I mean, look, if we're talking about impact, I go Jaylen Brown, okay? But when we're talking about stats and impact, Nickeil Jokic, 28 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists on 57 from the field, 38 from the 3, 83% from the free throw line. That is disgusting numbers. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown, 29 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists on 48 from the field, 35 from 3, 80 from the free throw line. That's a quality stat. We ain't talking about defense. We're talking about the highlight stats. Jaylen Brown, Nickeil Jokic, they deserve MVP. Wemby deserved MVP. Cade Cunningham deserved MVP. But again, SGA, he matters so much to the team that people view as the best team in the NBA, on and off the court. He is their absolute leader. Now, I've heard people trying to talk about Luka Doncic, right? He doesn't have enough defense, and offense is not elite enough to have a separation over SGA. Like, yes, Luka's assisting is higher than SGA. So is his rebounding. He's also the bigger player. Scoring-wise, it's not that much of a difference. And keep in mind, Luka has more of a usage rate. He has a higher usage rate. So I'm assuming he's going to score a little bit more. He had a phenomenal, March? Where he scored like 600 points. That is disgusting to think about. But I couldn't put him ahead of Nickeil Jokic. His team was higher. Couldn't put him again ahead of Jaylen Brown. His team was higher. Same with Wemby. Same with Cade. And same with SGA. And before y'all talk about, well, Luka's on the Lakers. Luka's on my Lakers, where we have Braun. People are trying to hype up Austin Reeves. We got DeAndre Ayton. We got all these. We have comparable talent. Now, whether it gels correctly on the floor is another discussion. But we do have comparable talent. Despite what I have said sometimes it's a little emotional based when I'm talking about my Lakers. But if we're talking about talent for talent, remember, DeAndre Ayton was the number one pick at one point in time. LeBron James was the number one pick at one point in time. Like, we have decent talent on our team. And if he had gotten higher team-wise, and he was the lead cause, the lead catalyst, well, okay, cool, I could put him up there. I could put him a little bit higher. But that wasn't the case. So again, ladies and gentlemen, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should win the MVP. I will take Cade Cunningham or even a Jaylen Brown. I don't know about Yoke. He had a phenomenal season for sure. Statistically, the man, dominant. But when we're talking about impact, again, he's missed time. So did Wemby. So did Cade. JB's availability should be rewarded. Not to mention, the man was hooping this season. Almost giving us 30. Being a primary defender, yes, you still had Derek White, but still being a primary defender against them wings. I'm just saying, ladies and gentlemen, there's a discussion to be had for Jaylen Brown winning MVP or Cade winning MVP. Because your second best option is Jalen Duren, who might not have a bag. He just brute force. Quality talent to have if you're the Pistons. But if we're talking about somebody who can help get a bag, your next best option might be Tobias Harris, who's not bad, by the way. It's just a little bit different than what some of these other players have. Like with Nickeil Jokic having Jamal Murray, or Luka Doncic having LeBron James, or Victor Wembanyama having De'Aaron Fox. Jaylen Brown eventually getting back Jason Tatum, but that happened later in the season. Just saying, ladies, SGA having Chet Holmgren. It's a little bit different. So again, we have multiple people who could have won MVP this season. But I do lean SGA for MVP. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that does conclude the end of the episode. I've talked about a lot of players who can get a bucket. I've talked about a lot of players who can stop people from getting a bucket. I'm curious, who do you all, and I've talked about coaches who have coached teams to get a bucket and to stop people from getting a bucket. So I'm curious, ladies and gentlemen, who do you all think should win Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and MVP, Most Valuable Player? I'm curious your thoughts. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that does conclude the end of this episode. So be sure to tune in this week as the award winners should be dropping. I'm curious to see how the NBA looks at these players. But I'm also curious to your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, this does conclude the end of the episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, tell anyone about the show. My name is Trey. I'm the host of Get a Bucket. I hope you are all having a good one. Take care.